All right. Welcome, everyone. And we are Two Old Pucks Hockey Chat. Welcome. Just playing with some volume settings here, making sure everything is peachy. And we have Mr. Scotty and super awesome Chris. And we are going to start off with some stories for this evening. And it is February 12th. We are live on Periscope. Anybody who has any questions, comments, suggestions, feel free to reach out to us on Periscope and we will address all comments possible. All right, Scotty, go ahead, sir. You have the helm.
All right, so as everybody knows, 2 weeks to the trade deadline, and so everybody's kind of watching what's going on, who's going to be traded, who's going to be a buyer, who's going to be a seller. Well, the first big shoe dropped the other day, in January. So the first big shoe dropped just the other day when the Pittsburgh Penguins traded the Minnesota Wild for um, Jason Zucker. So Zucker comes to the Penguins. He is in year 2 of a 5-year contract, so with a cap hit of $5.5 million. Going the other way was a draft pick by the name of Kalen Addison, one of actually the top ranked defensive prospect for the Penguins. Conditional 2020 first round draft pick that can be deferred to 2021 if the Penguins miss the playoffs. Pretty sure that's not going to happen. So Minnesota got themselves another first round draft pick for this year. And Alex Galchenyuk, who has basically gone from a brief cup of coffee on the Sidney Crosby line all the way down to the fourth line, maybe getting 3 to 5 minutes of play per night. So somebody like, oh, everybody's going to follow, the everything's going to start falling in line. Man, everybody is going to be getting in on the trade train right now. Well, yes and no. So the thing about Jason Zucker is he's not a rental. All right, so that's the first point. Zucker was signed. He's under contract for 3 more years after this one, and which kind of fits in with the Penguins' MO of late, where they have not really gone out and gotten rental players. Kind of bit them in the butt over the past several seasons when they picked up big names like Jerome McGinley and just picked up these rental players, and so they've shied away from that and they've gone for the longer term contracts. So the second thing is they had to find a replacement on offense because Jake Gensel, their leading goal scorer, is out for the remainder of the regular season, may not be back even in time for the playoffs. So there was a big hole in the Penguins' offense that needed to be filled. And quite honestly, trending wise, they have not been putting the puck in the net at quite the pace that they were before the first of the year, and certainly not to the point that's going to keep them at pace with the rest of the division. So the other thing is they traded a first round draft pick and a top prospect because really Alex Galchenyuk is kind of nothing there. So big deal there. And what it says for anybody that's watching, particularly fans of the Penguins, is that Pittsburgh wants to win now. Again, really honing in on the fact that you have Crosby, Malkin, Letang, really trying to bring home that cup, being competitive now. And again, you sign Zucker. He's got 3 more years. He's speedy. He's 30 goal scorer. He's reaching really the prime of his career. He's got good hands. Goes to the front of the net. But he plays that north-south game that Pittsburgh really likes. And so he only played one game. Last night was his first game against Tampa. Played like a guy who had been on a plane all day, got to the rink just in time to suit up and play. So once he gets some rest, we'll see how he pans out. Now, the interesting thing here is, and then I'll be done with this, because I know how everyone just loves to hear about the Penguins, is that during the offseason, the Penguins were actively pursuing Jason Zucker. They had a deal in theory, I guess if you want to call it that, with the Minnesota Wild, and it hinged on the Minnesota Wild taking Phil Kessel in exchange for Jason Zucker. Well, Phil Kessel's contract has one of those limited no trade clauses, and apparently Minnesota is one of the teams that he didn't want to go to. So the interesting thing here is that Pittsburgh traded Phil Kessel to Phoenix for uh, Alex Galchenyuk, and essentially he's been the trade piece of the trade going out for Jason Zucker. So really, they just delayed the inevitable by making this trade midseason. Certainly, it hurts to get rid of that first round draft pick. I have a feeling they probably would have had to give that up in the offseason, but it's just kind of a funny thing that they made the trade halfway through the season with the same stuff that they would have sent out to get rid of Kessel or to bring in Zucker earlier in the season. So I don't think that this is going to be the start of the dominoes again, because this is Pittsburgh, who was really backed against the wall. But it's an interesting first trade, and there's still a lot of bigger names out there that are going to be rentals. They're still available for teams to pick up. So again, 2 weeks early, but still something. It's a big trade, and we'll see how it works out. And we'll see if the bar was set with that first round pick and that top prospect for any other teams that may be interested or in the market to pick up a rental.
Right. Very good. Very good, sir. Would you like to continue your momentum?
Momentum, sure. So just got one really short thing here, and again, we're kicking out to the West Coast, and we're going to talk about the Vegas Golden Knights. So the Vegas Golden Knights announced on February 6th they had purchased an AHL franchise, and that was from the Spurs Sports and Entertainment, which operates the San Antonio Rampage. So the Golden Knights have applied to relocate that team to Henderson, so to be close by, and they put season ticket deposits on sale, or opened up season ticket deposits. They got over 4,000 season ticket deposits already for the new AHL team. They would be headquartered at Lifeguard Arena in Henderson, and right now the team, which Vegas owns, would continue to play in San Antonio where they are. So again, that's a big deal. It shows the commitment that the city and the ownership of the Vegas Golden Knights have towards their NHL franchise. Certainly with 4,000 season ticket deposits already. I mean, here in Norfolk, we were lucky when we had an AHL team to get 3,000 to 3,500 season ticket holders a year. So already and hockey had been here for a while. So already that speaks volumes for that organization. So it'll be exciting. It'll be interesting to see if San Antonio picks up an ECHL team to backfill. I really don't know the market in that area to see if there's actually any desire for that, but certainly San Antonio's loss. But again, Henderson's gain, and big announcement for the Vegas Golden Knights. So yeah,
awesome.
Yeah,
very cool.
Let's see if
you can
match
keep going. You're on a roll, man.
Oh,
you're rolling.
No, let's kick this over to you. My hands are hot. Lips are smoking here, so let's keep going.
Okay. Nothing too crazy I have. Just a funny little thing. This is courtesy to dailycaller.com. This is a video that was initially put out by Barstool Sports, and it's just a good old-fashioned pond hockey fight, and it goes viral because you have a guy who is wearing a red jersey who decided to maybe fight up a notch here, fight up a weight class, and winds up getting put down twice. But it makes for a good video. We'll take a look now at it. Yeah, definitely a little size advantage here. This poor guy's getting tossed around like a rock.
This is sick. Oh, God.
Well, you gotta give him credit. He jumped back up and went back to the wall. I'm looking for officials. Don't really see anybody. And then you got to wonder what the rest of the guys in the ice are doing. Why aren't they jumping in, right? Isn't that the rule?
They're all laughing.
Yeah, isn't that the rule where the little guy starts the fight with the expectation that the rest of the folks are going to jump in and break it up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all went for a beer afterwards anyway. It doesn't matter.
Oh, of course, and that's what the NHL announcers will tell you about guys that fight in the NHL too. Oh, they're all friends. I'm sure they go out for a beer after the game.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right, I'm going to take the next one.
Yeah, by all means.
A little bit more of a serious note.
Okay.
Hockey game to raise money for a Greenwich boy with a rare disease. Now, what's nice about this is we finally caught one of these fundraisers before it happened, so we can get the word out and really hopefully, maybe even support it. Even if we can get one person to stop by this event, it would be amazing. But a portion of ticket sales for an upcoming Danbury Hat Tricks hockey game will raise money for research into vanishing white matter, VWM disease, an extremely rare degenerative brain disease. This event will support both the VWM Families Foundation and Sam Buck, a 9-year-old Greenwich boy suffering from the rare disease. Let's see. We're going to move down here. Sam was diagnosed with VWM when he was 2. The rare brain disorder destroys the brain's myelin, which permanently affects transmission of brain signals to the rest of his body as a result. The disease, which primarily affects children, is untreatable, incurable, and terminal. Those affected have a life expectancy of approximately 5 to 10 years after diagnosis. Scotty, you're a parent. I'm a parent. I'm a parent. This is terrible. But, you know, his mom says his speech is slow, but if you pay attention, you can understand what he's saying. You know, listen, this game will take place at the Danbury Ice Arena, which is located at 1 Independence Way in Danbury on February 21st at 7 p.m., during which the Hat Tricks will play the Columbus River Dragons. Tickets are $14 for adults and $10 for children 12 and younger, and are available by contacting Kylene Luby of Cultec at 203-775-4416 or via email at cluby@cultec.com.
Yep, and we'll certainly post those links as well. So we'll put that out on Twitter and Facebook as well. We'll get the word out for that.
Buck said in a statement, "We are excited and grateful to have the support of Cultec." Sam was diagnosed in 2013, and we're hoping that this turns out to be a very beneficial fundraiser. So spread the word, please, in support of Sam Buck.
Yeah, you know, I got to tell you, one of the things that I really love about hockey as a sport is that, in my opinion, it does more to connect with fans and really gets personal with fans as opposed to maybe other sports. And I pay more attention, obviously, to what hockey does, and certainly with the recent passing of Kobe and all those people speaking out and saying how much he touched their lives, and especially with Make-A-Wish. Apparently, he was always available for Make-A-Wish. You really appreciate athletes, whether they're college, whether they're semi-pro or pro, taking the time to get to know fans. And so when a team can team up with or partner up with a cause like this, you know, it speaks volumes about the character of the ownership, about the management, about the players. And, you know, something like this too, being that it's rare, having it advertised, putting it out in public, and then having a team back it, you know, that gives strength to other parents and kids who are afflicted with something like this. And, you know, when the kids can get involved, no matter what their medical condition is, to be able to get them out, to be able to get them as part of the experience, whether they're watching from, you know, an isolation ward, or they're able to make it to the game, seeing their name, seeing the players talk about them, that's uplifting, and that can be healing as well, not just for the body, but for the spirit. And, you know, when you get a condition like this, you know, really the thing to target is spiritual healing, and trying to, you know, build up that courage and confidence to fight as long as possible. So, you know, hats off, stick tap to this organization, stick tap to the players that are participating, and, you know, they're going to be skating with a little something extra that night for for this. So yeah, good find, and glad we could definitely get the word out ahead of time.
Absolutely, well said, sir. And just as a side note, this article courtesy of Patch.com from the Greenwich, Connecticut section of Patch. Okay, moving on. Fantasy hockey. This is courtesy ESPN.com, and they did a nice little roundup of players that are returning from injuries and how they're going to be affecting their teams based on where the teams are in the standings and how lineups have changed since their their absence in treating their injury. So first we have Jonas Korpisalo, Columbus Blue Jackets. That's number one. And, the Blue Jackets have been playing tough lately. I mean, they have definitely been moving in the right direction. They had a bad first start to the season. They've been putting some wins up on the board. And it's going to be good for that team to have him back. We're going to scan through this.
So it's interesting. Yeah, no. So it's interesting, too, talking about Jonas Korpisalo. So Elvis Merzlikins has, pretty much dominated goaltending statistics in the NHL in that time. So Korpisalo coming back that's a big deal, and certainly Korpisalo going into the season was the number one goalie. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to have a hard time getting his net back. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's definitely an interesting situation.
It's a good problem.
Yeah, it's definitely a good problem to have. Yeah.
And as we cruise through this, remember, this is for those fantasy hockey, players out there. This is something to review. Check these names, see if they're available in your league, and see if you can grab them. Darcy Kemper, another goalie, Arizona Coyotes. Scotty, thoughts?
So, it'll be interesting to see what Arizona does. They're kind of on the fringe. This article refers to him having setback. So we'll see what happens when he gets back. But before he left, he was right up there with save percentage. I mean, his statistics were right up there before he went out with an injury. So no goalie has in the games that I've watched has really stood out in Arizona. Yeah. So when he finally does make his debut, I think he's going to be able to come back in. He'll certainly stabilize the back end for the Coyotes, and then we'll see what happens if they're able to go on a roll and make a push.
Right. Victor Olofsson, Buffalo Sabres.
I'm gonna pull a Dwayne. I'm gonna lay down the Dwayne card and say management doesn't care, so why should the fans about the Buffalo Sabres?
It's true. It's funny because they're just having such a tough time. This article says that Jimmy Vesey's doing his best. Sam Reinhart. Listen, it's all in all that the chemistry isn't there. That it's just not. They're off. They're just off their game.
As soon as Eichel can leave, he's gone. I would agree. He's out. He's going to want out.
He's got a long way to go, though. He's got a long way to wait.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he can. Players nowadays we've seen in other sports they can manage to weasel their way out. So we'll see what happens. But as soon as Eichel can leave, he's going to go. So
William Karlsson for Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, obviously they're going to be thrilled to have him back. Vegas is playing well. Just makes that team that much stronger. So I doubt anyone who had Karlsson injured gave him up. I'm sure everybody put him on the IR. So we'll just do one more right here. Brock Boeser of the Canucks. Maybe one more. Kyle Connor, the Jets. Good players, man. Coming back into the fold. I'm sure these guys are probably not available. But, all right. Moving forward. Scotty.
All right. So, one thing, I actually have two more things I want to talk about. The first one's be really quick. So, if anybody didn't hear, Jay Bowmeester. So, Jay Bowmeester collapsed on the bench after suffering a cardiac episode during a game in Anaheim yesterday. And so he was conscious and alert, which is good. He was taken to the hospital. But he just finished a shift. Game was tied 1-1. Blues players are skating to the bench during a timeout, and Bowmeester collapsed. So, I mean, I guess good timing. So it wasn't on TV. Didn't freak out the national audience.
Right.
But there was a lot of credit given to the medical staff who stable. Yeah, for both teams. Yes.
Yeah.
Blues trainers, Anaheim trainers, the on-call physician. They all went to the bench,
Yep.
took care of him, stabilized him, put him in the ambulance. He was alert and awake when he was on his way to the hospital. He was under observation. The teams decided to suspend the game, and you know, I'm kind of mixed about doing that.
Here's the thing, and
yeah.
I knew you could say that, and I initially felt the same. Like my gut was, well, I don't know if they had to, but then at the same time, this is here when you look at the whole thing in perspective here, right? It was for the Blues. It was the part of the father's trip.
It was, yeah.
So every father of every player's father was there.
Yeah.
The father rushed down, obviously, to be by his side as he was taken out to the ambulance and to the hospital. All the fathers actually rushed down.
Yep.
The whole walkway from the ice to the locker room was just all players. They had sectioned it off, and security prevented anybody from press or any other person coming close to the area. So it was just players and the fathers who were there. People didn't know his status.
Yeah.
So because of that fact, at that point in time, you don't know. You just don't know, and it was very serious the way he went down. It was very serious how it was handled by the medical teams. You don't know, and it's one of those things that everyone is kind of extremely distracted by the fact that you don't know what's happening to this guy, and for both teams. And you could see there was concern on all the players who were on the ice, both sides. Everyone was equally concerned about the status of him. So,
sure.
Knock on wood, God bless. Thank God he's okay, and it looks like he's on the road to a recovery. But still, that's the way I think they. When you take it all into consideration, I think that was probably a move that could be understood and appreciated, and say everyone can kind of say, I get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. There's certainly that way to look at it. And to your point, the fact that they didn't know, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Again, not the first player that has collapsed on the bench. The name escapes me, and I'll have to find it. But there was a player a couple years ago who collapsed, was in the ambulance, and basically asked for them to turn around so he could go back in. So kind of comic there, but the best of luck to him. Hopefully they figure out whatever it is.
Yeah.
The thing is they won the Stanley Cup last year, so he got to raise the cup last year. He came back and played this year. There was a question about whether or not he would play next year, because I think this was the last year that he was under contract. So
yeah.
It'll be interesting if he decides to hang up the skates. Depending upon what the issue was,
right.
By the time rehab and everything else comes around, he may not make it back in time to finish out the season. So,
right.
Best wishes for him. Certainly glad to know that he's healthy, and want to make sure that it doesn't cause too much of a distraction
right.
for the Blues. So,
right.
So we'll get moving on with that. So,
all right, and one more to wrap it up. I think you have, right?
This is the last one. So, Jeremy Roenick is back in the news today.
No.
Yes.
Who's he sleeping with now?
Yes. So Jeremy Roenick has been fired by NBC for inappropriate comments.
Yeah.
So his suspension is finally up.
Yeah.
And he came out on Twitter and basically said he started off by saying, "What a joke," and that he will not be returning to NBC Sports. He stated that he's very disappointed and angry today. Says he will not be gone for long. He'll be back better and more motivated to bring you the best entertainment and the best that I have for the game of hockey. So just going back to recap, back on December 19th, he was on a Barstool Sports promoted show called Spittin' Chicklets.
Yep.
And he talked about in a podcast, that Spit and Chicklets podcast, where he, his wife, and Catherine Tappan, co-host, were taking a trip to Portugal, and apparently, just telling this story, he says multiple people approached and were joking with him as to whether or not they were all sleeping together. And his comments were, I play it off like we're all going to bed together every night, the three of us. If it really came to fruition, that would be really good, but it's never going to happen.
This
Later
guy's
on
crazy.
later on in the episode, he spoke about co-host Patrick Sharp's physical appearance as well, basically saying it was beautiful. I'd have to think about it if he asked me. I wouldn't say no right away. Now, you know, yeah, I bring it up because again, Catherine Tappan was there. She was on the trip. Certainly, she knows Roenick and has said so that they're friends. They hung out together, and you and I talked about this when it first came out. And she has to know what his sense of humor is. Now, granted, nobody wants to be embarrassed in public,
Right.
and I'm sure Roenick and Catherine Tappan and Roenick's wife were there, and he probably went back and said, "Man, somebody else just asked me if we were all together, right?" And ha ha ha, they're all laughing about it,
Right.
around dinner. Um, Tappan basically said, she appreciated the apology. And so this is kind of one of those things, right? Did NBC do the right thing? And I just want to take a couple minutes where we can discuss this real quick and kind of get your viewpoint. So my thing is, I don't think firing him was the right answer. So he's been a valued member of the NBC Sports team. He's got a hell of a lot of experience in the game of hockey, both on the ice and behind the scenes, making with his color analysis, his interviews, just being part of the sport. And yes, he made a mistake, and it was funny that when you brought up the Barstool Sports story early, because that's kind of their MO. Like, they're out to just bring outrageous stuff. And so now, are you going to get honest interviews? Are you really going to get to know people when they're on these shows, or are they going to be afraid of, once again, they say something, it's innocuous, it's humor, it's a joke. Everybody there at the time knows that they're joking, but man, does it come back to bite you in the butt later
I don't
on.
think he could have said anything more toxic. And the reason why I use the word toxic is because it was a coworker, right? And it was sexual in nature. So he's a guy talking about a female coworker. So a male coworker saying something sexual about not just a female, but a female coworker is probably the most toxic set of like ingredients you could have in the media today. And yes, he made a mistake. I agree with you on that. I agree maybe he should be given a second shot, but I don't blame the media company and the people, his superiors, for. Listen, this might not have been an easy decision for them to make. This, ultimately they have
I
to
think
come
he was
to a
fired.
decision.
I think he was fired the day that it happened. I
It's very
just,
possible.
yeah.
It's very possible. But a lot of times you don't see a situation play out like this where he's kind of suspended and then fired. I mean, listen, he didn't do something that was questionable. It was on tape. It was recorded. It was played all over the place. So it's something that they could have very easily had the evidence to back up a decision that would have been made immediately, but they didn't. Excuse me. So I think this is something that they processed. It might not have been easy. Maybe it was. Maybe it was how they wanted to play it off. But either way, he didn't make it easy for himself. And
I'm
you
not
got to remember,
arguing
this
that.
is
Not
this is
arguing that.
something you don't know what was said behind closed doors. Also from Patrick Sharp, or also from Catherine Tappan. Maybe they had a discussion. Maybe behind closed doors, she said, "You know what? I wouldn't be comfortable with him here, working with him going forward." We don't know, but I think it's unfortunate. I have nothing against Jeremy Roenick. I think it's unfortunate, but he put himself in an extremely bad position.
I
And
agree.
and I think there's a bunch of elements there that could have played out multiple ways that all would have led to him being fired. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna argue against anything you said as far as him owning what he did, being responsible for his words. Again, I just, so take the NFL for instance, right? So the NFL suspends a guy for 6 games because he took a helmet and tried to crack somebody over the head with it.
Yep.
They reinstated him, right? I mean, if he connects with that and kills the guy, or gives him brain damage,
we're talking about 2 different things here.
You're right. But I guess my point is, at what point or at what stage, or really, I guess my point here is when does the punishment fit the crime, and when is the punishment in excess of the crime only because of the court of public opinion? Now, I understand.
This isn't public opinion.
I understand. Well, hear me out.
This isn't public opinion.
I understand the ratings.
This was a co-worker.
Yes. No.
So now you're dealing with HR, right?
No, I'm with you. And it's also he's a representative of the network, right? So I know that
he's an ambassador to the NHL.
Yes, I recognize it. Well, the NHL hasn't cut ties with him. Now, granted, the NHL wasn't paying him, but they didn't.
No, I'm not saying they had to cut ties. I'm just saying he plays a significant role for what he's doing.
He does. I just think that if I guess I'd be curious to be a fly on the wall, to your point. But if Catherine Tappan basically came out and made a statement, hey, we're still friends, I guess, you dragged it out this long. If you were going to fire him, which I think on day one, they knew they were going to fire him, I think you should have just done it then, as opposed to dragging him along. He's likely been suspended without pay, under contract, so likely couldn't go get a job anywhere else. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with the decision. I understand it. I just don't agree with it. So I'll be curious to see where he lands.
It's unfortunate. The network, Catherine Tappan, Patrick Sharp, the network, all of the co-workers there did not ask to be put in this situation. No one asked for this.
I agree.
And now they all have to sit there because of what he did to decide who's comfortable with what, who's willing to move forward with him, who's not willing to move forward with him, the ramifications on their ratings if they do bring him back, because once again, it's a male speaking sexually about a female co-worker. There's so many bad pieces to this.
I'm with you.
That nobody asked to be in that situation to analyze and to assess how to move forward with this. So I think there's too many thorns that could pop up in those conversations on how to move forward, where people say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with this, I'm not comfortable with that. How about you? No, so it's.
I don't agree, but I understand.
Yeah,
we'll just call it that.
I got you.
We'll call it that. I will be interested to see who does pick him up. So if he lands on the NHL Network, where he goes, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. So
yeah.
And that's all I got. Wanted to save that one for last because I think it's an interesting discussion. So
yes, excellent, sir. Great job.
Yep, good stuff tonight.
So we are good. We covered everything. As always, you can grab this broadcast on our YouTube channel at 2 Old Pucks Hockey News. Also at Twitter at 2 Old Pucks, and our email 2oldpucks@gmail.com. Facebook 2 Old Pucks Hockey Chat. Anything else? What am I missing?
Nope. You got Periscope. You said email. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Tell anybody who will listen, and tune in for our next broadcast on Sunday.
You got it. Thank you, everyone. Hope everyone has a good evening.